morning, everyone. Welcome to State of the State 2023. My name is Bob Linscheid, and I have the pleasure of serving as President and CEO of the Walnut Creek Chamber of Commerce and Visitors Bureau. And it's great to see such a super turnout this morning, particularly for those of you that don't consider yourself morning people. So there are cards at the table. And suitable, since we're at a country club, if there's a golf pencil. If you want to write some questions down, our staff will be available to pick them up. I know that the mayor and Audrey G., when they do their fireside chat, are pretty well prepared to expand on a number of issues that are happening in Walnut Creek. Most of them really good. So your participation would be appreciated. I also want to thank Matt Bollinger and the team from the city of Walnut Creek that is producing today's event on Walnut Creek TV's YouTube channel. So it'll be posted after the event. Okay, so enough of the obligatory housekeeping items. You all know where the bathrooms are. We don't need to get into that. It's my pleasure to introduce our chair of the board from TRI Commercial, Ed Delbacaro.
Thank you, everyone. Good morning. Matt just reminded me, I guess this is the first in-person State of the City in 2 or 3 years, so welcome, everybody. So thank you for coming to the State of the City featuring our new mayor, Mayor Cindy Silva. We're excited to see the mayor, various council members, and all the staff today. Thank you. Thank you also to our sponsors. So you can read the screen since I can't. That obviously helped make today's event possible. I want to acknowledge our premier investor circle as displayed on the screen. These firms make it possible to have this event. We also want to thank all the host tables. So I'll read those off though. Republic Services, Visit Walnut Creek, Bouchard Tang, Portillo and Garrett, Contra Costa Association of Realtors, Community Bank of the Bay, City of Walnut Creek, TRI Commercial, we have no idea what TRI stands for, DLHA Law Group, and Contra Costa Workforce Development Board. Thank you all for your support. Now, I'm going to acknowledge all the various elected officials in the audience. First of all, representing Commerce and Market Saulnier's office is Magdalena Oliveira. Representing State Senator Steve Glazer is Alexa Lopez. Representing Rebecca Bauer-Kahn is Elisa Horak. Representing the Contra Costa Board of Supervisors in person, Supervisor Candace Anderson and Supervisor Ken Carlson. Representing I'll take all laws to the end. City's mayor. Representing the Contra Costa Water District is 2 people, Antonio Martinez and Pat Young. And then our city council is here. So Cindy Silva, the new mayor of Walnut Creek, Loella Haskew, the mayor pro tem, Cindy Darling, council member, Matt Francois, council member, and Kevin Wilk, council member. Now we can give an applause to all the elected officials. Then, as chair, I'm going to now introduce a long line of former chairs. Edge Coffey, Jim Fidelis, Angela De La Husa, Ashley, Linda Remick Colbert, Leslie Dawson, Matt Bouchard, Margot Sanford, and Tim Argenti. Now, it is my honor to say a couple words, introduce our new mayor, Cindy Silva, who I first met a long time ago when she was the executive director of the Walnut Creek Library Foundation. So Mayor Silva has been a member of the city council since 2006, and this is her 4th time as mayor, 2011, 2013, 2019, and now in 2023. Prior to her election, she served also on the Walnut Creek Planning Commission. Over her council career, Cindy has been focused on fiscal sustainability, the availability and affordability of housing, economic development, all while ensuring a safe community and quality of life amenities. Cindy also serves on numerous regional and state boards. Notably, since 2005, she's been on the state board of the League of California Cities. After this past year, she served as statewide of Cal Cities. And also on the state level, Cindy was a governor appointee to the California Seismic Safety Commission and currently serves as chair of the commission. Please give a big welcome to Mayor Cindy Silva, the can-do mayor. Congratulations.
Thanks a lot. Before I get started, while they're toggling between the slides, I'd like to introduce the city staff members that are here this morning. If you could all rise so I can acknowledge you, because I may be calling on you to answer questions. Jamie Knox, our Chief of Police. Steve Mattis, City Attorney. Colette Hanna, Manager of Economic Development. Kirsten Linekas, Administrative Services Director. Heather Ballinger, Public Works Director. Susie Martinez, City Clerk. Trish Raver, our newest member of the Executive Committee, who's the HR Director. Carla Hansen, Deputy City Manager. Betsy Burkhart, Communications Manager. Kevin Safina, Arts and Recreation Director. Erica Vandenbrandt, Community Development Director. Terry Kilgore, I actually can't see this far. Terry Kilgore, Assistant City Manager. Carolyn Jackson, who's the new General Manager of the Lesher Center for the Arts, and somebody I've missed. Oh, the guy they all report to. City Manager Dan Buckshire. Did I miss anybody? Thank you all for being here, and let's thank them for the work they do on behalf of the city. Ed, thank you for your kind introduction this morning. And I also want to say thank you to the Chamber of Commerce for sponsoring this event each year, because this allows us to talk about city priorities and initiatives and how we're working together. And I also want to thank the Chamber and the entire business community for being such good partners with the city, because together we make a better community, a better local business environment, and a better place for people to be able to live, work, and visit day in and day out. I do have a number of city priorities and strategic initiatives that I'll talk about this morning. And thank you, I'm done. Was that you? We'll start basically that to be a great community, which is what all of our goal is, we must ensure that we are a safe community for all. That means for all residents and all businesses and all those who want to visit here. And I can say confidently that we continue to be among the safest communities in the region, if not the state and the nation. In fact, over the last 5 years, our crime rate has been relatively constant, which is a really high bar to achieve, because consider where we've been over the last 5 years and how everything, the entire environment has been changing, so that we are able to maintain a relatively constant level of crime. I want to say thank you to the chief and thank you to our police department. Now, 95% of our citywide crime involves property crimes, which translates to basically theft, which is better than what it could be. But this is getting to be more troubling in recent years, and we're seeing this across the Bay Area and the state, because property crimes are actually becoming more violent. So we're very focused on that, and how do we address those issues. And of course, let's talk about downtown. The city is hyper-focused on avoiding a repeat of the organized retail theft incident that occurred at Nordstrom just about a year ago. And that's why we as a city invested to support the deployment of a 5-unit officer downtown patrol unit, among other strategies. And all of that together has made Walnut Creek less attractive to criminals, and we're very appreciative for that. Of course, I can say that a safe community involves more than just fighting crime. Our police officers, unfortunately, are often called upon to be the first responders for individuals experiencing a mental health crisis. And to better handle these crises, I really want to credit the police department and its leadership for doing everything they can to expand our crisis intervention and de-escalation training, as well as investing in tools that facilitate a less lethal response to these incidents. In addition, and in partnership with the cities of Martinez and Pleasant Hill, Walnut Creek has formed a regional crisis response team. And the goal is that no matter what time of day and what day of the week. Between these 3 cities, police departments, they can have a team that is prepared and trained to handle a mental health response. Of course, we're fortunate because PD's work on mental health issues is really part of a broader county-wide effort. Walnut Creek has been a key member of the partnership between the county and the 19 Contra Costa cities to offer a non-law enforcement response to anyone, anywhere, anytime in Contra Costa who's experiencing a mental health crisis. When fully operational, the A3 program will feature 3 elements. Mobile crisis response teams deployed across the county so that anywhere, anytime, a team can get to an individual within 1 to 2 hours. The second element is an around-the-clock crisis call center, and the third is a mental health outpatient center and detox facility, so there's a place to go other than county jail for the people that are experiencing these incidents. And I really want to acknowledge our county supervisors for recognizing the need and working with the 19 cities and taking the leap to bring this program to fruition. Now, of course, among those who frequently experience mental health and substance abuse issues are those who are homeless. And regardless of the numbers of people or the causes, homelessness is a significant concern for the community. Walnut Creek is investing about $500,000 each year to tackle the issue. First and foremost, the police department has a 2-member homeless outreach team, specially trained to work with the homeless and connect them to available resources. Second, contracting with Contra Costa County, we have a 2-person team of social workers who support the homeless 40 hours a week in our community, and they provide health and basic needs services, and they also provide help to find permanent housing for them. For nearly 10 years, we've supported the work of the Trinity Center, the local nonprofit that provides essential safety net services and case management support for the homeless. And we partner with the Trinity Center in providing the winter night shelter between December and March each year at the National Guard Armory. And I really want to acknowledge, wave your hands, the representatives of the Trinity Center who are here today. So thank you for your work on behalf of our community. Of course, homelessness is also a symptom of the larger housing challenge that we face across the region and the state. And it's making headlines every day. The cause is, in fact, lack of supply. And the consequences are high prices, overcrowding, and long commutes. And as an example, our statistics for Walnut Creek show that 50% of Walnut Creek households are housing cost burdened. And this has a significant impact on our workforce, on all of your businesses, and on the economy as a whole, both regionally and across the state. Walnut Creek recently finalized our 2023-2031 housing plan, and the plan reflects our commitment to doing our fair share to tackling the housing crisis. We'll continue to focus housing in and around downtown, close to jobs, transportation, services, schools, and away from the protected open space areas. And among these projects will be 100% affordable projects like the Habitat for Humanity project that is under construction near the Contra Costa Center and the Pleasant Hill BART station, but it's in Walnut Creek. We'll also support additional accessory dwelling units and other housing options that address workforce housing for teachers, nurses, and others among us who are simply priced out of the market. And we'll see a few small single-family infill projects come out of the ground over the coming years, but there won't be a lot because, as you know, we're a built-out community and our infill opportunities are really in the downtown core area. Ultimately, Walnut Creek will continue to grow over the next decade, but I will also say that as a community grows, we will become increasingly diverse and will want to be known as a community that is welcoming and inclusive. The city has been working on diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives for about 3 years, and a key part of this initiative has been the work of a 15-member community-based DEI task force. The work of the task force will reach a critical juncture in the coming weeks, and we look forward to receiving their final recommendations in April. In the meantime, plans are underway for our first ever city-sponsored Fiesta Cultural, a week of events and performances to celebrate Latin arts and culture. And among highlights will be Center Rep's production of the musical In the Heights, a performance by Cuban jazz trumpeter Arturo Sandoval, and a free weekend music and dance street fair. So mark your calendars for June 20th to 25th. On another front, we are nearing the completion of an updated and broader environmental sustainability action plan, which will provide us with a comprehensive approach for how to achieve our greenhouse gas emission reduction goals, adapt to climate change, and enhance climate resiliency. But while we've been writing our updated plan, we haven't been sitting on our thumbs. We've actually been getting a lot done to make progress toward our environmental goals. We've added more than 30 public EV charging stations in city garages and parking lots. We've installed cool roofs made of 90% recycled content on a number of city facilities, including the historic Shadelands Ranch House, and we won a national award for putting a recycled content roof on a historic building. Our vehicle fleet has 7 all-electric vehicles and 29 hybrid vehicles, including 8 recently purchased for patrol vehicles for the police department. We are testing various electric handheld tools in our parks, and we will switch over to electric tools as we phase out units that are gas-powered units that are wearing out. And to conserve water, we have converted some 7.5 acres of city ball fields to drought-tolerant turf. And we've done all of this having also joined MCE for our electric power, and also installing solar facilities in a number of facilities across the community, including in the parking lot right here at Boundary Oak. And on a very cold morning, I'm sure you really did want to be out of the sun. So let's talk about the economy. That's why you're all in business, right? Now that the pandemic is hopefully in our rearview mirror, we're focused as a city on revitalizing the local economy and working with all of you to do that. And I want to thank all of you who worked with us as we navigated the economic challenges of the past few years. I know it hasn't been easy. We're especially pleased that so many of you opted to participate in the Rebound program. In fact, at the height of COVID, 67 dining and retail businesses were operating outside in what we called pop-ups, and 71 small businesses received Rebound grants from the city totaling nearly $600,000. Over the past year, we've been transitioning from Rebound to Downtown Next, and as part of this, we've established a downtown outdoor dining program that encompasses a fee structure for use of the public right-of-way and guidelines for outdoor dining structures that give proprietors design flexibility for their spaces, while also ensuring that we're protecting the safety and health of the public who are sitting in the street in many cases. In the coming months, the new outdoor dining sites will start to pop up, first on Main Street and eventually on Locust Street once East Bay Mud and Central Sand complete their utility upgrades. As part of our economic development initiatives, the city recently commissioned studies on 3 economic sectors, and the results are quite interesting. First, for retail. The study shows that Walnut Creek fared better than most communities during COVID. In fact, our retail vacancy rates currently are generally lower than most downtowns and trending toward the healthy range. Some of the key takeaways that we learned from the study is that Walnut Creek remains the retail center for the East Bay and a key regional shopping destination. In addition, one of the important learning points from the study is that retail thrives with the critical mass that you get with the current ground floor retail zoning in downtown. Just think about the Diamond District in New York. Everybody's located together. However, there are some things to consider as we look at the future, such as allowing greater flexibility on the second floor spaces above the downtown retail uses. That could be helpful. And further, if we want to keep that critical mass of retail in the downtown area, we need to probably consider reducing the amount of retail that we envisioned in our Walnut Creek, West Downtown, and North Downtown specific plans, so that we allow the concentration to occur and we don't allow concentration to become distributed across a very large geographic area. And I'm not talking about the periphery areas. They're not your neighborhood shopping centers. They are Mount Diablo Boulevard, North Broadway up near the auto sales area. Now, in contrast to the retail sector, the office sector, as you can imagine, is a bit more unsettled, although there are some bright spots. And of note, we expect greater demand for medical office space because of the development of two major cancer centers in Walnut Creek, one at John Muir Health in partnership with UCSF, and the other at Bass Medical in the Shadelands. That is going to create a need for anywhere from 100,000 to 200,000 additional amounts of medical office space. For office, the study also noted that work from home is in flux. If you thought it was all going to be work from home for the future, or everybody was going to go back to work 5 days a week, well, we don't really know yet. It's really been a bit of a hybrid. A second learning is that office-based businesses are taking advantages of vacancies, and they're moving up in quality, which is also serving as enticement to their employees to come back to the office. And a third learning is that proximity to amenities make a difference. For example, buildings like Grower Square, which is right next to downtown, are experiencing much lower vacancy rates right now than those comparable office buildings, same class of office space, just 4 to 5 blocks away next to the BART station. And that's because of the amenities that are within a block of Grower Square. One other thing I want you to remember is that the arts in Walnut Creek, anchored by the Lesher Center, is a $40 million plus per year contributor to our local economy. And that's why we're so happy that the Lesher Center is back after a 16-month hiatus during COVID. So here's some of the dozens of upcoming events you can see at the Lesher Center. And all of the information is on the table. You have one for each of you. I was amazed when I got this in the mail and looked at everything that's happening and all of the different options, but some of which, last night was Michael Tubbs, former mayor of Stockton, who talked for 90 minutes, and I don't think anyone in the room was bored. Actor Henry Winkler will be here at the Lesher Center in April. A performance also will be there by the Dance Theater of Harlem. Summer Sounds outdoor concerts on the Rudney Plaza will be back in July, followed by arts around August, in, yes, you guessed it, August. And for the first time ever, the East Bay Women's Conference will be in Walnut Creek, and it will be at the Lesher Center, and I hope to see you all there on Tuesday, March 7th. Now that I've given a few highlights about the economy, let's talk about the city's fiscal health. As many of you know, the city was not immune to the fiscal challenges of the pandemic. When COVID hit 3 years ago, in March, in fact, we're coming up on 1,000 days, city revenues took a $13 million hit in a matter of weeks. And then by the end of that June, so only a few months later, the city had tackled a $22 million plus deficit in its budget that had to be closed. Fast forward to today, I'm pleased to report that we have a balanced budget. With careful management over the last few years, we avoided using any reserves during COVID, and that's giving us healthy emergency reserves today. Plus, we've set aside $18 million for facility improvements and an additional $23 million for future pension obligations. And we will have a balanced budget going forward. Now, you may be wondering about all the money we're going to get from Measure O. Voter approval of Measure O last November gives us the opportunity to address a range of quality of life issues. The increase will actually go into effect on April 1. So if you've got a big purchase, want to buy a Maserati, do it in March, please. And we'll see the first revenues from the sales tax increase in June. But we're not waiting to start planning on how we will deploy that money. Planning for the new Heather Farm Community Center and Aquatics Complex is just beginning, and the first step is to select the project management team for that multi-year project, as well as the architectural team. And I will close with this note. On behalf of the community, I want to say thank you. Thank you to the Chamber and Walnut Creek Downtown and nonprofits like the Library Foundation and the Diablo Regional Arts Association for supporting the effort to get us Measure O. And I want to thank all of you, the individual members of the community who endorsed Measure O, donated to it, and walked 20,000 pieces of literature to neighbors all over the community twice. That's right. And Audrey knows. We were successful because we worked together as a community, and our community will celebrate our success together. And now it's time for me to have a conversation with Audrey.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Silva. That was very helpful. I love all the visuals. Great job. Hi, everyone. Audrey G. I am the chair-elect of the Chamber, and we are going to do a little coffee talk with Mayor Silva. So here we go.
It's a water talk.
and go ahead. I know that was a little bit of time, so refresh and replenish and all those sorts of things. You know, so you've been the mayor for 3 terms. This is the 4th term coming up. And we've gone through, you were mayor almost right before COVID, then there was a year, and then COVID hit, and then now we're kind of coming out on the back end. What's different in terms of how it was and beforehand and then now that you're coming in? We heard about the state of the city, but you know, what are the challenges that you're seeing for this year?
The public is used to being able to do things virtually, and the public, it was interesting to watch it. I mean, Luella Haskew had to be mayor initially during this, and then Kevin Wilk was mayor in the 2nd year, and Matt Francois in the 3rd year. And I think the public has become less civil, and that can make it more difficult to address the issues, because it's when somebody, they got used to being able to be invisible because they didn't have to turn on their video camera, and they also had the opportunity to say whatever came to their mind. It's shocking that we would have to say, please do not use profanity, this is a business meeting, but we have to. We are very fortunate, however. I have colleagues across the state, and Ken Carlson was serving on the state board of Cal Cities with me for the last 3 years prior to this, who can describe threats and just some real difficult things going on in communities. So we're very fortunate because most people understand civility. So that to me is the difficult issue. You need that frame of civil communication in order to address any issue effectively.
We certainly see a rise of that incivility with the use of social media and people kind of hiding behind that social media, especially when we see things on Nextdoor or some of the other platforms where people are kind of raising their hand, but kind of also hiding at the same time. So what about, I mean, talking about that, what about citizen engagement? Have you seen a rise in that or a decrease in terms of wanting to be involved in city life?
I think it's both. Some of the things that we would ordinarily be able to do to engage with the community, like our Citizens Institute and events like that, have been on hold. And so that we've, hopefully when that comes back, we'll be able to engage in multiple ways and not just on Zoom or come on down to City Hall for a meeting. But the council still has its weekly event at the farmers market on Sunday mornings. We use it as our office hours, generally from 10 to 12, except for holiday weekends. So we rotate the roles. So people stop by and talk to us there, which is good as well.
That's great, and it's a great farmers market if you haven't been. I encourage you all to go.
I know, and people ask, do you do all the farmers markets? And there's 3 of them, if not 4 of them. So we do the one on Sundays because it's closest to City Hall and we can haul the material there easily in a wagon.
Absolutely. So you talked a little bit about the parklets. Some people love them in terms of giving us a more cosmopolitan feel here, and some people hate them in terms of some of the traffic that it creates. But anything that you wanted to say more about them or what's next for them?
So are you talking
About the outdoor dining.
outdoor dining? I think that we did a survey a little over a year ago to see if the community wanted us to continue with the outdoor dining and the use of the street spaces for that. And the answer was resoundingly yes. Those who want to come downtown and always find a parking place in front of the store where they want to shop, that train left the station 100 years ago. Walnut Creek has had parking meters since right after World War II. Most people don't realize that. And they were installed in order to manage traffic, because guess who gets the best parking place when you don't have parking meters? The employees, because they got to be there to open the doors. And so there wasn't enough parking then, let alone in this environment. And we managed parking with an agreement to try to reach 85% occupancy. That means there would be 15% open spaces available in a multi-block area so that you're not circling the block all the time. But back to the question you asked, love your shoes.
There we go, it's embroidered red.
It's all about the shoes.
I knew I was going to be on a chair, so I was going to have
Us and Imelda
shoes
Marcos,
couldn't
right?
like fall off, right? Little booties.
The parklets are popular, and we're looking forward to having them back. And when I described that we've established guidelines for structures, remember that during the pandemic and with the emergency orders from the governor and what we had in place, we were able to basically abandon and do things more quickly without adhering to all of the public safety and health guidelines. So now the structures will be required to have foundations and not just a little bit of, a concrete post sitting on the surface, because you want to ensure that if there is an outdoor dining spot and you're sitting next to the edge, somebody doesn't hit you and kill you, because that would be really unfortunate.
I think so.
We still want you with us, Matt, for sure.
So there'll be more structure, and it'll take a bit more of a commitment on the part of the retailer or the dining establishment to do it, because there's an investment in the infrastructure.
Right, and we've certainly seen an increase in the ADA access lawsuits that have hit all of the outdoor dining establishments, because they just kind of went up, and then people thought it was a ripe area for lawsuits.
And what's really interesting is you have to realize you've got the sidewalk and you've got curb. Guess what has to flow through that curb area is water.
Yeah.
On really rainy day, on any rainy day. And so you had to be able to walk over they had to have a platform that got them over the water, but also addressed ADA issues. So it was complicated, and this will be easier to do, but a little more costly.
And safe, so we can keep Matt with us. So Arts Spur Vitality, and you noticed that it was $40 million a year that it brings to the area. And people want to live where there's a vibrant art scene. So what's next in terms of what the city or the population can do here to make sure that we have a really great arts area?
Who are you looking at?
Oh, Peggy White, that's all.
Well, you can go. So how do we all make things survive? How does your business survive? By having people take part in your business, buy goods and services from you. So the same is true for the Lesher Center for the Arts. Buy a ticket. I mean, I'm really excited because on March 4th, there's a Fleetwood Mac tribute band, thank you. Last time I saw one of those was in Adelaide, Australia. It was fabulous, and we're excited to go see this one again because it's something fun to do. And I really want to commend Kevin Safine, the Director of Arts and Recreation, and our new General Manager, Carolyn Jackson, for basically looking at the calendar, filling the days. Sometimes you can go to two things at the same time. Good luck with that. And so go and be a part of it, and be a part of the Community Arts Foundation and the work they do to help support the Center for Community Arts, which are classes and programs.
Great. Walnut Creek has become this destination for medical care, and people come from all sorts of places up and down the state, and not just regionally. And what can the city do to encourage further medical development? You talked some about the office space, but What more there?
I think I would love Terry Kilgore to be able to come up and say, hey, what are we going to do tomorrow? But the work of the city is really long-term. Our job is economic development. Our job is not selling your goods. It's not doing your strategic marketing plan for the next quarter or the next year. Ours is looking at that long-term vision so we can set the table so that you can decide what you're going to serve at the table. And I think the study that we just completed was really interesting to show how much 1 or 2 cancer centers being built will generate for the need for medical office space within a half mile to a mile of those 2 facilities. That medical office space will not be going into Concord because that's too far away. They need to be close to the center of what they're doing. And so how can we support through zoning and streamlining of processes to ensure, and here's the caveat, fighting with the state, and I don't necessarily disagree with some of the things the state has done. If you make it too easy to convert in the short term any empty office space to housing, you are losing your opportunity. It'll be opportunity cost for the long haul. And we have to look at that balance. So I'm hoping what we'll have to do is probably do some strategic things to facilitate that it looks okay to wait out the challenge for those who own those office buildings. Did I do okay? Colette? Okay, thanks.
And
You asked.
the cards, and so if any of you have questions, please write them down and then give them to Marilyn and she'll bring them up here. Okay, so we talked about medical. What other types of industries does the city want to encourage here? And not just, what types, and then where geographically?
Can you hear me? Okay, good. Every once in a while, you don't hear the same echo, and it's like, well, what just happened? We have 2 major, well, we have 7 sub-office regions. So, but let me go back one step. We are not going to be looking for a power plant. We're not an industrial-based community. We are an office-based economy and a retail dining-based economy. So we want to be sure that we hold on to that retail destination and arts destination. But when we look at office, the economic studies show that your professional level office businesses are the ones that are targeted for, that are likely to come here and will come here. Finance, insurance, real estate, and so that will be where the focus would be. And how do we, because much of the, people mentioned biotech and high tech, and I think it's an interesting idea, but we're going to have to see what happens with hybrid, work from home, go to an office. Is the demand in the workforce going to be such that that hybrid, I think about my daughter and son-in-law trying to work from home with 3 small children who are quite sick right now because it's winter in Seattle.
All sorts of fun.
And so you think about, wouldn't one of them want to be able to go someplace else to be able to work during the day, that satellite location, but not drive all the way to Mountain View to go to the office at Google, because that's 4 hours on the road, particularly with the state of transit in the Bay Area and the state. So I know I think the future is open, and the real question is, what would it take if we wanted to shift into a big biotech company? And we've considered those things, but there's a lot of infrastructure that goes along with that.
Sure. Okay, thank you. What types of the major real estate developments do we have planned for 2023? What can we expect?
Housing.
And any particular place in geographic areas that we're looking at?
Well, we have a housing element, we have a general plan, we have set the table. We're not we know what projects are coming to us. Right now, the biggest challenge is money, because things that penciled 2 and 3 years ago are no longer penciling because of the cost of financing and the cost of labor and the cost of construction materials. And the land costs they pretty much already had in place. So I think that's going to hold things up a significant amount.
And there's been some developments, though, that have been able to manage those right sliding factors as all of a sudden the sands are shifting underneath you, right? And so in terms of trying to maximize or make things pencil out so the financing works?
So you've got three, and I showed a couple of them, three major housing projects that are coming out of the ground and are also ready. Some of them are being tenanted, but I think the financing was in place before this problem started 12 months ago. So if your financing was in place, you got a deal, and they could keep going. Construction costs, it's compressing. But we have other projects that have had their entitlements for 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, and they keep having to get extensions because they didn't get their finance, they weren't ready quite yet, and then the financing hit the skids. And so they may never pencil. So that, I mean, it won't surprise me that a very small project of 20 units will suddenly be looking to capture more land space and look to make it bigger, because bigger is easier to capture dollars for, and smaller, you've got upfront costs that tend to be the same whether you're 20 units or 300 units. And that's going to be probably a bit of a shock to the community, because it was like, oh, I liked that that nice 20 unit project. What do you mean you're going to put 300 units here? And it's not on the same land, but it's taking advantage of every opportunity it can to try to figure out how to make the original one work.
Okay, thank you. So you started your State of the City with public safety and the situation with Nordstrom's. What new actions is the city taking with respect to public safety? We had Measure O, which was passed and brought new revenues in. There was some talk about some of the public safety officers and hiring more public safety officers. What can you tell us about that?
So when the Nordstrom incident occurred Thanksgiving time in 2021, I cannot figure out what year it is.
I know.
This whole problem started in 2020. And so you've got all these twos and nothing is jiving. When it hit then, and we immediately took action within days and allocated the funding, which was about $2 million, to be able to increase security technology and hire and deploy a 5-officer downtown unit. So that's additional 5 officers. We funded that with federal American Rescue Plan dollars, which were available to us, and they're continuing to be used for that. But going forward, what we're seeing is we know that it's making a difference. Please confirm that, Chief.
It is.
Thank you. This would not, no was not a good answer, right? So Measure O has the ability for us to be able to use those dollars to continue that. The other things that we've been working on downtown, and it's really important, the downtown retail center is going to be a key area of our business-related crime, because it's a critical mass is also an advantage, and downtown as well. In addition to hiring the additional 5 officers or deploying that additional 5-officer team and security and technology, we've also been continuing to build our partnerships with the downtown major stores and Broadway Plaza. So Apple, Nordstrom, Macy's, and in addition, Broadway Plaza basically pays for 1 full-time officer to be available in that Broadway Plaza area, which has helped. I mean, it helped on that night because there was an officer the night of that Nordstrom incident that was I think he was in front of the Apple store when it occurred. And he got there and he caught a couple of them. But, everybody else was deployed across a 19 square mile city. Mm-hmm. The other thing that we're doing, and you don't talk about it a lot, it turns out this is organized retail theft is a state level issue. It's a national issue. It's crimes of opportunity, but they're planned. This is not smash and grab. I really have to rephrase that terminology. This is, we're organized, we're on the dark web, we're getting our teams together, and we're gonna hit. And they've got places where they're taking this stuff to pawn it and fence it. It is not, let's steal a little bit, run and see if mom needs it, or I can pawn it at the pawn shop. And so there is a big effort at the state level with the California Highway Patrol to run regional task forces on this issue, and we're actively involved in that as well, because the California Highway Patrol, basically those highways connect all of these communities because they're not localized. They are coming from all directions and to take these opportunities. And so all of that together helps to make a change. And somebody's going to ask me about the K-rail, you know, that plastic stuff, that K-rail, that it will, in the next few weeks, will be being removed, and actually retractable bollards will be put in. And thank you to Broadway Plaza for being willing to make a better looking. And Broadway Lane Street will be open full-time, but can be retracted, put up and put down as necessary, but not at a moment's notice. And it will not serve as a jail where it can drop from the sky. That's, you know, some futuristic thing in somebody's vision.
That was actually one of the questions here. Will the city keep the street in front of Nordstrom's closed permanently for pedestrians? Please say yes. I'm reading from like.
Do you want to say yes,
here.
Chief? No. The answer is no.
Yeah. You also referenced in the security some technology and the dark web. What are we doing in terms of more public safety around that, or being able to, what kind of increase in technology are we doing?
If I told you, I'd have to kill you.
Okay, we can't know, but feeling good about it, okay.
No, we have detectives, and we work regionally. In a couple of cases, the RPD will get calls from Oakland or from other areas who are monitoring things along with our detectives, et cetera, and they're going to go, okay, they're on their way. If things are about to happen, things are breaking, we think this is about to happen. Not with enough notice to, you know, lock the gates, but we are monitoring all of that. But it's also where you monitor for sex trafficking, child pornography, and all of the things that we do not want in our communities.
Thank you.
More?
Yep, no, okay, I do, I have more questions. We spoke about the success of Measure. Oh, yay, thank you everyone for making that happen. So, you know, sports tourism is such a big thing. Tell us about the revamped Heather Farms Community Center and the Aquatic Center. I mean, we can, you know, there's so much. We've seen the success over in Shadelands and Copa and people coming in terms of the millions of dollars with the supporting businesses. Tell us kind of where we are in the process of that community center and pool, aquatic center.
So we made a decision. We've been working on this it was one of the first meetings I had when I was elected to the city council in 2006, was we need better pools. They're breaking down. They don't do this, they don't do that, they don't do this. So we've been working on this for a while. I guess the answer is I can't leave office until I solve that problem that was originally put in front of me. I'm going to get it right. Over the course of time and multiple studies and community-based advisory groups, we have agreed to go from 3 flat water pools. So flat water means square, level surface, other than in a windstorm when you might get a few waves on top, and go to 2 pools that serve multiple purposes. One is swim lanes, and the other is Olympic-sized pool, and the other is a recreation pool that can serve for learn to swim for children and adults, water aerobics, and recreational play, which the fees that people pay to go to the recreational pool help to subsidize the cost of running that larger pool. Currently, the pools at Heather Farm, and boy, I'm going to go deep dive here, or drill down. I carry a drill. The pools at Heather Farm, the 3 pools are on the same heating system, so the water is all one temperature. So that water is kept at a temperature that basically is conducive to lap swimming for the more competitive swimmers, which means that those seniors coming in for water aerobics are cold. In addition, when you have a problem in an old pool with one heating system, the whole thing goes down. Thank you, Bob. Because you cannot. So we're going to 2 pools, separate systems, but also the conclusion was clear that what we needed to do is also replace the community center at Heather Farm, because that's 50 years old and you don't want to see the rot under the eaves. And we keep it well maintained, but in reality, it's not as good as it needs to be in order to be life safety, seismic safety, et cetera. So we're building a complex, which will be both a community center on one side, the north end, and the aquatics complex on the southern end. And the aquatics complex will have the 2 pools and lots of space. And where we are is we have a conceptual site plan, which we were shown 2 weeks ago, which basically says we can fit all the boxes in the space and the space around it. So the first step is to hire the architects, and I say that with plural because we're probably going to hire, oh my God, I'm looking at the public works staff and going, tell me to shut up if I'm wrong, a team. So you'll have a general architect, a major architect that will bring in the teams of people necessary with circulation, environmental, how to design an aquatics facility, landscaping. So is that probably the way it will work? Okay. And it's not dissimilar. Well, when you're only building one building, I know how to do that, but when you're building multiple in the same time, in the same space, you have to have a complex team of expertise. And we should have that architecture team in place hopefully by July. The first funds come to us in June, but we also have $18 to $20 million set aside for facility improvements so we can get started. And it'll be a 2-year process to get it designed and worked through in the environmental. And so I think the first signs of a hole in the ground of any shape or form would be in spring of 2025. If I can remember that Gantt chart.
And I'm sure there's lots of divergent views and community groups, but if people want to get involved and provide input in terms of their perspective, how would they do that?
There's been a lot of community input so far to get to this point, but there will be public meetings. The Pros Commission will be engaged on it. The City Council will be, there's a lot of work to get to where the public input will be.
Thank you. Moving along, and so talking about Measure O dollars, what about the possibility of hiring new city staff for streamlining permits, making that whole process go faster? How do we handle that?
It would be a great idea if we were not suffering like every business. How many of you are struggling to get people for jobs?
There's a talent shortage.
So we're running at a 14 to 15% vacancy rate, and the average for us would be 6 to 7%. Now, the police department is our first priority, and by my calculation from last week's data, it looks like we're about 8% vacancy rate. But what does that mean? That means somebody's on the higher end to make the average at 14 to 15%. And that's significantly probably in our public works and community development departments, the organizations that really have to slog through permits, et cetera. So we might not even need Measure O dollars to streamline. We would just need talent.
Just need talent. What can we do as a community or as the chamber in terms of helping bridge that talent shortage?
I don't know. The HR director's here.
Anyone got a solution?
It's a recruiting challenge because, I laugh and say everybody wants to be able to work from home, but you can't patrol Broadway Plaza from home. You can't fill a pothole from home. And we do need people at City Hall engaged with the public, addressing the public's issues. But we are using a hybrid environment. But it is a problem where we see Rossmore, 10,000 residents, 6,700 households. They used to have a bus service that served and moved people around. They cannot find the drivers necessary to have a continuous bus service. It's now just in time, call for service, and that's really frustrating for people.
Here's a follow-up question. How is the city supporting recruitment of the staffing up of the crisis support program? How might we decrease the per unit cost for construction? Oh, this is a different question. The construction of new affordable housing units, but let's talk about the first one. recruitment for staffing up of the crisis support system program?
So the social services and health services, et cetera, are the responsibility of the county. So the county, I don't know, Candace, Ken, you want to answer this question? But the county is knee-deep into the recruitment process. When I looked at the data, it's to be fully working with the the response times that are necessary is 34, I assume, 2-person teams to be able to deploy for the mobile crisis response. And they look to be at about 13 teams right now. So slowly but surely, they're slogging their way through it. And we just need to be, I hate to have to say this, this is a game of patience right now with staffing and trying to get back to business, back to the services we had when the job market and the labor market isn't there. And then the other question is, how do we reduce costs for affordable housing? Mm-hmm. So the key, it was interesting, last week the question is it all about city fees? And Erica Vandenbrand, thank you again for being able to pull this data for us. The one thing we do have visibility into for pro formas for development projects are the 100% affordable projects, because they have to apply for federal, state, county grant funding. So we have to see what that pro forma looks like. 699 Ignacio Valley Road is at Civic and Ignacio. It's an old gas station. It's been remediated. It was owned by Hall Equities, and they sold it to Resources for Community Development for a 100-unit fully affordable project. This is what the 2019 pro forma said. It was roughly a $70 million all-in project, and all the fees, including the utility hookups, entitlements, school fees, et cetera, were 5% of that. The others, 95% of that is in land costs, which was 10 percentage points, 10%, and labor and construction materials and financing costs. I can't control labor costs because really, I will tell you, the demand is to increase labor costs. That's the political demand. I can't control the cost of wood, and I can't control the cost of land. And so there's the rub. What we can do is raise funds to help to support it and fund it, because if you cannot get at it at the cost side, you have to get at it through the contribution side.
Thank you.
A really depressing answer.
I know. Okay, here's maybe a good one. How is Walnut Creek unemployment rate doing? And it says, I see the new business such as Shake Shack coming in, but how will employees of this type of business live nearby and be able to afford to work there?
Go back to the previous answer.
Yeah.
I'm proud of what we've been able to do in the city, because our predecessors, our council predecessors, about 20 years ago established 2 affordable housing fee funds, basically. If you want to come in and build a market rate housing project, you're going to pay a per door fee or a per square foot fee for affordable units to be funded, or you have to provide them yourselves. And then there's a commercial fee also. If you're adding commercial space like Broadway Plaza did, then they have to pay a commercial linkage fee. And we've been able to accumulate, I think it's close to $35 million to contribute toward the development of affordable housing over the last 20 years. That said, we don't build housing, we contribute to support the housing, and we say we'll contribute up to 25%. What it costs to build a unit of housing, if you run the numbers that I just told you, is about $750,000 per unit.
Tell me about Community Service Day.
Okay, Community Service Day, thank you to all of you who've participated and helped support it. We established it in 2011, and it is a play within a play, because it is run by a nonprofit, the Walnut Creek Civic Pride Foundation, and a volunteer team of 13 community members. So the city's participation, they helped us get it going in the first year. It will be Saturday, October 14th, and we're just getting started in the planning for it. And thank you to all of you. Prior to COVID, we basically had a typical 50 projects on one Saturday.
So exciting.
And probably 1,500 participants. COVID kind of set us back a little bit, but during COVID we ran food drives and collected 65 tons of food over 3 food drives and about $75,000 in cash contributions. So that was an amazing effort.
It's great, and thank you for making that happen and being the founder, and it's been recognized by the League of California Cities for your excellence, and so it's a wonderful, wonderful thing that we can brag about because of you. Okay, a couple of personal questions. Early bird or late bird?
Both.
Zoom or text?
There's not enough hours in the day.
Zoom or text? Would you prefer?
Zoom or text?
Yeah.
I would prefer in person.
In person.
You will find me picking up the phone or finding you and talking to you in person. I am not good on social media.
I was going to ask Instagram, Facebook, or TikTok.
Well, I will go to Instagram so I can watch my 3 granddaughters.
Okay, there
but
you
my
go.
daughter doesn't post, so evidently she needs 25 hours in the day too. So.
I know. What gets you fired up?
Complex problems.
There we go. Love it. Favorite local hiking spot?
My favorite local hiking spot is to walk downtown and the urban environment because it allows me to see more of what's going on in the community. I don't take enough breaths to calm down because if I walk in the open space, I'm going. I used to walk with Bob Simmons in the open space, and he was looking at the flowers, and I was looking at the view, how far I could see to the oil tanks in Benicia.
There we go.
I was like,
Right on the horizon. Mysteries, thrillers, action, romance, or documentaries? What would you rather watch? Assuming if you watch.
no, okay. It's action because I have to be distracted, otherwise I try to multitask.
Okay. Live performances or cozy fire and good book?
It's probably live performances.
There we go.
Again, distraction. If I sit down and read a book, I'm probably thinking I should be reading a counsel packet.
All right, with that, there we
Condemnation.
go. Thank you very much, Mayor Silva.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate all that you've done.
Thanks for that.